The laugh that echoed through the arena. The arena was silent. Thousands of aliens filled the seats. Some had wings, some had 4 eyes, some had glowing skin. They were all here for one reason: the blood trials. It was the biggest battle event in the galaxy. Only the strongest warriors from different planets were allowed to enter. Today was special. Today, a human had entered. The gates opened with a deep rumble. A tall alien warrior walked into the arena. His armor was thick and blue, shining with energy. His horns curved back like blades. He was General Karzak of the Varnak Empire, famous for crushing enemies in seconds. The crowd roared. Then the second gate opened. A small figure walked out slowly. He was wearing old, scratched armor, dull gray with no glow, no weapons in hand. His steps were quiet, calm. This was Leo, just a human from planet Earth. The crowd laughed. "Is this a joke?" One alien shouted. "He looks weak," another one yelled. Karzak looked at Leo's armor and let out a loud, booming laugh. "This is what the humans send," he shouted. "You wear trash armor and walk like a lost child." The arena echoed with more laughter. But Leo didn't speak. He didn't smile. He just stood there, eyes locked on Karzak. Karzak walked closer and pointed at Leo's chest. "Your bones will break in 1 hit," he said. "Maybe 2 if I feel generous." Still, Leo said nothing. Instead, he whispered quietly into the side of his helmet. "Begin phase 1. A soft blue light blinked behind his neck. No one noticed. The arena judge, a tall robot with 6 arms, raised his hand. "Begin." Karzak charged forward like a beast. His blade lit up with blue fire. He raised it high and swung fast, straight at Leo's head. But something strange happened. Leo moved. Fast. Not just fast, too fast. He ducked low and rolled to the side. Karzak's blade hit the ground with a loud crack, sending sparks flying. Before the alien could turn, Leo had already moved again, behind him. The crowd gasped. "What was that?" A creature in the front row said. "Did he teleport?" "No," another replied. "He just moved, like lightning." Karzak turned, eyes wide. "Tricks," he growled. "You're using tech." Leo didn't reply. His eyes were calm, focused. The alien rushed again, swinging his blade left and right. Each attack was strong enough to break metal. But Leo kept dodging, his movements smooth and silent. Karzak growled louder. "Stand still, coward." He lunged forward. Leo jumped high, higher than any normal human could. He flipped in the air, landing behind the alien once again. Then he spoke. "I am not here to impress the crowd." His voice was quiet but clear. "I am here to make a point." Karzak turned, furious. "What point?" he shouted. Leo stepped forward, slow and steady. "The galaxy laughs at humans," he said. "They think we are weak, stupid, easy to crush." He paused. "But we watch, we learn, and when we rise, we don't come with noise. We come with purpose." Karzak blinked. For the first time, he looked unsure. Leo raised his hand. A small panel opened on his arm. Light glowed from inside. It was not alien tech. It was something new, something unknown. Suddenly, Karzak's armor began to spark. The energy inside it started to shake. "What? What are you doing?" he shouted. Leo looked him in the eyes. "Phase 1 is just the start." The crowd was no longer laughing. They were silent, watching, afraid. Phase 1 begins. The crowd didn't understand what just happened. One moment, General Karzak had the upper hand, strong, fearless, charging like a beast. The next moment, his weapon sparked, his armor shook, and the human didn't even flinch. From the stands, aliens of every shape leaned forward. This wasn't normal. Something had changed. Karzak felt it too. His armor, built by the Varnak warlords, had never failed in battle. It could survive black hole radiation. It could crush stone like paper. But now it hissed. Tiny arcs of blue lightning crawled across his chest plate. What? What trick is this? Karzak growled. Leo didn't answer. He didn't need to. He took a step forward. Then another. And then he vanished. For a split second, Leo was gone. His body flickered like a glitch in space. A blink later, he was behind Karzak again, silent as shadow. The alien general turned quickly, eyes wide with disbelief. You teleported. Leo shook his head. No, just fast, too fast for you. And it was true. The audience didn't see him move. The arena's cameras tried to follow, but they blurred every time Leo shifted positions. Back on Earth, this ability had a name. Ghost Step, an advanced movement system only installed into elite human soldiers from Project Titan. It wasn't teleportation. It was raw speed. Speed mixed with precise timing, and an AI neural link so sharp it reacted faster than thought. Earth had kept it secret for years. Now, they were finally showing it. Leo raised his arm slightly. A small click came from his wrist. At first, it seemed like nothing happened, but inside Karzak's armor, hidden circuits began to burn. The mighty alien stumbled backward. Deactivate. Deactivate. He roared, slamming his fists on his chest plate. The armor didn't respond. Leo tilted his head. Your tech is powerful, he said calmly, but your arrogance is your weakness. You never thought anyone was watching. You never imagined the prey could become the predator. Karzak's heart was racing. His backup systems failed one by one. His energy shield dropped. His blade lost its glow. He was exposed. For the first time in 10 years, he was vulnerable. The crowd began to shift. Some whispered. Some looked confused. Others looked nervous. Who was this human? What else could he do? Karzak's second-in-command, watching from the VIP box, turned to his advisor. Is this human even real? What kind of warrior is this? The advisor, an old alien scholar, stared through narrowed eyes. He's not just a warrior, he said slowly. He's a message. Back on the battlefield, Leo circled Karzak like a wolf. Calm. Controlled. But then something happened. Karzak smiled. You think I'm scared? He growled. This is war, human. And war is chaos. With a loud scream, Karzak tore off the broken part of his armor and lunged forward with bare hands. He moved like a wild animal, throwing powerful punches that shattered the ground. Leo dodged, but one punch caught his side. Crack! He rolled across the dirt, dust flying everywhere. Blood ran from his mouth. The crowd gasped. Karzak grinned. You bleed like the rest of us. Leo wiped the blood from his lip. Yes, he said softly. But I don't stop like the rest of you. He pressed 2 fingers to the side of his helmet. A quiet beep sounded. Phase 2 initiated. Suddenly, lines of light spread across Leo's body. His armor shifted, unlocking hidden plates. His movements became sharper, more fluid. His eyes glowed faint blue. He stood up, cracked his neck, and ran straight at Karzak. No dodging this time. He attacked. A punch to the gut, a knee to the face, a spinning elbow to the neck. Karzak staggered back, roaring in pain. The audience couldn't believe what they were seeing. A human beating a war champion. Impossible. But it was happening. And deep inside the control room of the arena, a secret communication came through. A voice from Earth. Phase 2 confirmed. Data is clean. Continue observation. Back on the field, Leo looked up at the alien crowds. So many had come to laugh, to mock, to enjoy the fall of the human. Now they watched in silence. He spoke loudly, so they could all hear. Earth was quiet for a reason. We waited. We learned. And we built something better than strength. We built discipline. He looked at Karzak, who was now breathing hard, sweating, confused. Leo took one slow step forward. "This is not your defeat," he said. "This is your education." The arena shifts. A loud alarm echoed across the arena. W-E-O-O, W-E-U-O-O, W-E-U-O-O. The ground began to shake. The sky above flickered red. From the highest seats to the deepest corners, every alien turned their head toward the changing sky dome. It was happening. Arena shift. Leo didn't move. He had expected this. Karzak looked around, chest rising and falling fast. He didn't expect it to happen so soon. The blood trials were known for switching battlefields in the middle of fights. It was meant to test warriors in different environments. But this time, the arena chose Karzak's home world. The steel ground began to melt. It split open with loud cracks as lava burst upward in thin lines. Smoke filled the air. The entire floor turned into dark, sharp volcanic rock with rivers of lava flowing through it. The heat was unbearable. The crowd roared louder now. This was Karzak's domain. Planet Thuros, the fire planet. He had trained in this burning wasteland since he was a child. Karzak laughed. "Finally, your death comes," he shouted, his voice echoing through the lava-filled arena. "Let's see how a fragile human handles real fire." He stepped into the lava barefoot. His thick skin glowed but didn't burn. His body had evolved to survive this environment. Leo remained standing on a solid rock, quiet. The lava hissed at his feet. The temperature climbed quickly, too hot for any normal human. "Run back to your ice planet, little soldier," Karzak mocked, "or melt like your ancestors." Leo tapped his chest plate once. Click. Tiny vents opened all over his armor. Cold mist sprayed out in short bursts. Inside the helmet, a low robotic voice said, "Heat mode activated." His armor shimmered, changing color slightly, absorbing and redirecting heat. Now it was Leo's turn to step into the fire. He walked slowly across the burning rocks. His boots glowed red, but he didn't stop. The crowd fell quiet again. Even Karzak blinked. "You trained for this?" he asked, voice lower now. Leo stopped walking and looked straight at him. "No," he replied. "I trained in worse." A flashback played in Leo's mind. Earth's underground facility, deep below the surface. Fire tunnels, simulated suns, rooms set to 2,000 degrees. Project Titan had one goal: create a human who could survive anything. Back then, most soldiers quit. Some died. But Leo stayed. He survived the pain. And now he was bringing it. Karzak rushed forward, using the lava as his weapon. He kicked it toward Leo, sending hot flames flying like liquid fireballs. Leo raised his arms. His shield activated instantly. A glowing blue wall formed, stopping the flames in midair. The alien jumped and slammed down, cracking the rocks. Leo dodged and rolled, then delivered a powerful uppercut to Karzak's jaw. Boom! The giant stumbled back, surprised. Humans weren't this strong. "What are you?" Karzak shouted, blood dripping from his mouth. Leo's voice was calm. "A soldier, a student, a shadow, and now, your teacher." They fought across the burning field. Punches, kicks, blade strikes. The crowd couldn't look away. Sparks flew. Lava burst. Rocks exploded. And still, Leo stood tall. On a high platform, an alien news broadcaster whispered into a mic. "This human, he fights like he's not afraid to die." Another alien beside him added, "No, he fights like he already has." Back on the battlefield, Leo hit Karzak again, this time in the ribs. The alien fell to one knee, groaning in pain. Leo walked around him, slowly. "You've ruled by fear," Leo said. "You've crushed weaker races, but you forgot something." Karzak looked up, eyes filled with rage and confusion. "What?" Leo's voice grew louder. You forgot that the smallest spark can start a fire big enough to burn an empire. Karzak roared and stood, swinging his heavy fist. But Leo ducked and struck fast. A punch to the side of the neck, a kick to the back, a shockwave blast from his wrist. The alien fell again. And this time, he didn't get up right away. The arena lights dimmed. The crowd was silent again. All eyes on the human. All hearts filled with fear or awe. Then, a giant screen lit up above the battlefield. A message appeared, written in all galactic languages. Phase 3 ready, awaiting command. Karzak saw it and his heart dropped. He whispered, "There's more." Leo didn't answer. He just raised his head toward the sky and stared at the blinking screen. And slowly, he smiled. Weakness or weapon? The arena was still burning. Lava bubbled beneath cracked stone. Smoke hung thick in the air. Yet the crowd had forgotten the fire. Their eyes were only on the two fighters, General Karzak, champion of 10 worlds, and Leo, the human no one believed in. But now, no one laughed. Karzak knelt on one knee, breathing hard, sweat pouring down his thick gray skin. His ribs ached. His jaw felt cracked. His pride was bleeding. Leo stood above him, calm, quiet, watching. The giant screen still blinked. Phase 3 ready, awaiting command. Karzak looked up, his voice low. What are you? Leo didn't speak at first. Instead, he took a deep breath. His armor let out a hiss of steam. And then, slowly, he reached up and tapped the side of his helmet. Command, Phase 3, he said quietly. The helmet released with a soft click. The crowd leaned in. Leo removed it. Gasps echoed through the arena. Even Karzak took a step back. Leo's face was young, but not untouched. A long scar ran from his temple to his chin. One of his eyes was deep silver. It glowed faintly like a machine. His skin showed signs of radiation damage, old burns, and strange patterns glowing faint blue under his neck. He looked human, but not only human. Your face, Karzak muttered. Leo nodded. You see the truth now. Flashbacks filled the screen above them, broadcasting Leo's memory into the arena feed. Scene 1. A lab deep beneath Earth's surface. White lights. Scientists in panic. Leo, strapped to a table, screaming in pain as alien DNA was injected into his veins. Scene 2. Training chambers. Harsh conditions. Gravity chambers. Underwater battles. Fire rooms. Leo getting knocked down. Again and again. Until he stopped staying down. Scene 3. A cold dark room. A voice. You are our weapon. But one day, you must choose if you'll be more than that. Back in the arena, Leo spoke again. You call us weak because you only saw our past, he said, but you never looked at our evolution. Karzak's fists clenched. You used alien blood. Leo nodded. We didn't steal it. You gave it to us. More flashbacks played. Alien prisoners from past wars. Earth didn't kill them. They studied them, learned from their biology, used it to create hybrids, soldiers who could survive multiple atmospheres, heal faster, fight harder. Karzak shouted, That makes you less human. Leo stepped closer. No, he said, that makes me a better one. Suddenly, Karzak roared and rushed forward. One final charge. His pride pushed him past the pain. His fists burned. His muscles screamed. He hit Leo in the chest. Hard. Leo flew back, smashing into a large rock wall. Dust exploded everywhere. The crowd stood, thinking it was over. Karzak dropped to one knee, panting. I'd win. But then, through the smoke, they heard a sound. Crunch. Crunch. Footsteps. Leo walked out of the dust. His armor was cracked. Blood ran from his mouth, but he was smiling. He enjoyed the pain. "You hit harder than most," he said, wiping the blood off his chin. "But pain is something I know well." He raised his hand. Blue light gathered in his palm. A weapon formed, shaped like a short blade, glowing with human and alien tech. The crowd had never seen such a weapon. It didn't belong to any species in the galaxy. "Let me show you what pain taught me," Leo said. He moved, faster than before. Karzak blocked left, too slow. Leo struck right. A cut across the chest. Karzak turned. Leo flipped over him and kicked him in the back. Another flash of light, Leo's blade now burning white. He slashed again. Karzak fell to the ground, face first. The alien gasped, trembling. Blood poured from his mouth. He had never been hit like this. Not in 10 years. Not even in war. Leo stood over him. And then, he stepped back. He didn't strike the final blow. Karzak looked up, confused. "Why? Why don't you finish it?" Leo looked toward the sky. His voice was calm. "Because I'm not here to win," he said. "I'm here to warn you." The alien's eyes widened. "Warn us." Leo turned to the crowd. "This is not a battle between two fighters. This is a message to every empire that thought Earth was a joke." He pointed to the sky. "You looked at our weakness. You laughed at our gear. You called us soft." He lowered his hand, and his voice dropped. "But now you see what happens when humans decide to stop being quiet." The screen behind him blinked again. Message transmitting. Galactic broadcast engage. Every planet, every station, every screen across hundreds of systems now showed Leo's face. "You've awakened a sleeping giant," he said. Then he turned his back on Karzak and began walking away. Not in fear, but in victory. The human code. The fire in the arena still burned, but the battle was over. Leo stood alone in the center. His armor was broken, his face bruised, but his back was straight, his head held high. General Karzak, the undefeated alien warrior, was on the ground. He wasn't dead, but his pride was. The crowd had no words. The ones who laughed at humans now watched in silence. But something more terrifying was happening. Above the arena, the giant galactic broadcast screen continued to flash. "Galactic transmission in progress. Human protocol message initiated." Karzak raised his head slowly. What is this?" Leo didn't answer. Instead, a second screen came to life. It showed the Earth flag, a planet wrapped in ocean and clouds. A deep voice spoke. It wasn't Leo's voice. It was a recorded message, the voice of a woman. Calm, clear, cold. "To all empires, alliances, and dominions of the known galaxy. This is Earth. Across the galaxy, stations stopped what they were doing. Warships paused in mid-space. Mining colonies dropped tools. Merchant planets turned their eyes to the signal. Everyone was watching. For hundreds of years, you ignored us. You saw us as nothing. Weak, primitive, divided. And yes, we were. But you made one mistake. You let us watch." In the arena, Karzak tried to stand. Leo helped him, not out of mercy, but out of respect. A warrior who fights deserves to hear the truth standing. Karzak whispered, "You planned all this." Leo nodded. "Every part. We learned your languages, studied your weapons, watched your battles. You called us harmless, while we memorized every move you made. And now, the time for silence is over." The message paused. The screen split into 3 views. A human fleet appearing near the moons of Zenthra. A secret Earth base rising from the ocean floor on planet Mira 7. A young boy on Earth training with a weapon powered by alien tech. "We are not your enemies, but we will never be your prey again." This was not an attack. This was a signal. Earth has entered the game. The transmission ended. Silence. Then a ripple. It wasn't just silence anymore. It was fear. Back in the arena, Karzak looked at Leo, truly seeing him, not just as a fighter, but as a symbol. "You're not just a soldier," the alien said slowly. Leo nodded. "No, I'm a code." Karzak frowned. "What code?" Leo stared at him. His one cybernetic eye glowed brighter. "The human code," he said. "It means we adapt, we survive, we rise." Karzak was quiet for a long time. Then he asked a question no one expected. "Why didn't you kill me?" Leo looked toward the smoke-filled horizon. "Because it's not about you," he replied. "It's about what comes next." Far above the arena, in orbit, a fleet of ships uncloaked. Long, black, silent machines, not flashy, not massive, but fast, sharp, efficient. Each one carried only one pilot. Humans, each one trained like Leo. They were called Echo units. Earth had built them in silence, planted them across planets, waiting for the right moment. Now, the galaxy knew. Back on the arena floor, alien officials and commanders rushed forward. Some shouted for answers. Others demanded the fight be reviewed. A few wanted Leo arrested. But none stepped forward. Because deep inside, they knew. This was no longer about the blood trials. This was about fear of the unknown. Fear of Earth. One alien senator from the Grax Republic whispered to his aide, "If one human can do this, what happens if they send 10? Another muttered, "We should have destroyed Earth when we had the chance." But it was too late. The sleeping giant had already opened its eyes. In the arena mid-bay, Leo sat alone, helmet resting beside him. His fingers were cut. His body burned. But his mind was quiet. A voice came into his earpiece. "Leo, this is command. Phase 4 awaiting your final approval." He sighed. "No," he said. "Not yet. Let them think. Let them wonder." "Copy that," the voice replied. Leo looked at the crowd beyond the glass. So many eyes. So many worlds. And now, all of them knew. Humans don't run. Humans remember. And when they rise, they never come alone. The helmet comes off. The arena was no longer a battlefield. It had become a temple where silence carried more weight than war cries. Leo sat on a steel bench inside the medbay, surrounded by broken armor, drying blood, and shadows that felt too quiet. Outside, the alien crowds were still frozen in place, their minds spinning from the message they had just received. But Leo didn't think about the crowd. He thought about her. He picked up the helmet beside him. It was cracked, burned on the edges, still humming with faint blue light. The very thing that had protected him for years was now open, just like him. He looked at his reflection in the mirror across the room. His face, scared, his eye, glowing silver, his skin, marked by faint lines of bio-enhanced circuits, a face that no longer belonged to the boy he once was, a face that belonged to Project Titan 13. FLASHBACK, 12 years ago, a small child stood on a ruined bridge. Behind him, Earth's capital burned in flames. His home had been hit during a secret alien test strike, one that was never reported to the Galactic Council. The enemy ship left after one blast. They called it a glitch in navigation. But Leo knew better. He had seen the alien pilot through the fire. A Graxian mercenary, laughing. Leo lost everything that day. His mother, his sister, even his dog. All turned to ash in seconds. He survived only because he was out playing in the field. He ran for days. No one came. Until a black ship landed in the forest. Out came a woman in a long coat, eyes hidden behind sharp lenses. Her voice was cold. "Do you want revenge?" she asked. Leo, covered in dirt and tears, simply nodded. That was the beginning of Project Titan. Back to present. Leo placed the helmet gently on the table and stared ahead. Karzak entered the room slowly, armor dented, shoulder wrapped in metal bandage. They didn't speak at first. Just two warriors sitting across from each other, one broken by defeat, the other built by it. Finally, Karzak spoke. "You're not just human." Leo looked up. "I am," he said softly, "but I'm also everything you made me." Karzak frowned. "What do you mean?" Leo leaned forward. "You attacked our planet once. Not openly, just a small test blast. One ship, one strike. You called it a navigation mistake." Karzak's eyes widened slightly. His voice shook. "That was years ago." Leo nodded. 12 years. You killed the family. My family." He let the words sit in the air like a dagger. Karzak said nothing. He didn't even try to deny it. He just looked down. And Leo forgave nothing. "I trained for 12 years not to win," he said, "but to make you remember what you erased." The alien breathed deeply. "So all of this, the arena, the message, the fight, was your way of making us feel what you felt?" "No," Leo said. "That would be revenge." He stood up slowly. "This was justice." High above the arena, a secret meeting took place inside a hidden galactic council chamber. The top leaders of major alien empires watched the replay of Leo's fight. "He's not a warrior," one said. "No," said another. "He's a symbol." "Earth is ready," whispered a third voice. "And we are not." There was panic behind the silence, because one soldier had brought the entire galaxy to its knees, and Earth hadn't even sent its full force yet. Back in the med bay, Leo walked toward the door. Karzak spoke again. "You could have killed me." Leo turned his head. "I still can." Karzak looked into his eyes, really looked. He no longer saw a boy. He saw a ghost of his own actions. Leo continued, "But I won't, because then I become you." He opened the door. The sunlight hit his face, half human, half machine, all warforged. The crowds were still there, watching, waiting. And when Leo stepped forward, they didn't boo. They didn't cheer. They simply moved aside. For the first time in blood trial history, a human had changed the rules, not by brute strength, but by becoming the warning every empire ignored. That night, Leo stood alone at the edge of the city. Stars stretched across the sky. A voice came in through his earpiece. "Leo, orders from Earth Command. Phase 4 is now cleared. Should we proceed?" Leo thought for a moment, then said, "No." "Why not?" the voice asked. Leo looked up at the stars. "Because fear is louder than fire." He turned off the comm and disappeared into the dark. The human who made gods bleed. The stars above the alien capital burned brighter than ever before. Ships passed in silence. News broadcasts replayed the same footage over and over. The moment General Karzak fell, and the moment Leo stood over him without striking the final blow. The human who came alone. The human who didn't kneel. The human who made a god bleed. The galaxy would never be the same. One day later, Earth's orbit. Leo's ship, the Echo Blade, slid quietly into the orbit of Earth. No escort, no banners, no crowd. But inside every human station and city, screens were filled with his image. A silent welcome, a hero's return. Inside the ship, Leo stood in front of the mirror again. He had shaved his beard. His scars remained. His cybernetic eye blinked slowly. But his soul, it felt heavier now. Earth Command patched through a voice. "Titan 13, confirm landing." Leo replied, "It's just Leo now." "Copy. Welcome home." Galactic Ripele Effects. Across distant worlds, fear took different forms. On Zenthra 5, alien warlords demanded new weapon research. On Tekar Prime, diplomats sent secret peace requests to Earth. And on the icy moon of Thrial, a small alien child stood before her parents and asked the question that no one expected. Are humans the strongest now? Her mother stayed silent. Because no one knew. Cowan seal in eating. Unknown CCCR. In a dark, cold chamber made of stone and star metal, the Galactic High Council met in crisis. Leaders of 13 empires gathered around a hollow light table showing Earth's growing influence. Lines stretched from Earth to outer moons, mining routes and border sectors once ignored. They moved in silence, one elder said. And they moved deep, whispered another. But it was just one human, a war general shouted. One. No, came a soft voice. He wasn't just one. Heads turned to the speaker. An ancient being, tall, cloaked in silver vines, a thinker, not a warrior. She said, he was a signal. Me and Wahio on Earth. Leo walked down a long path toward the cliffs of New Geneva, one of Earth's secret outposts. There, a graveyard stretched across the hills. Not for the dead, but for those who disappeared during the early alien raids. Civilians, scientists, entire families wiped out before Earth could defend itself. Leo stood before one stone. It had no name, just a small carving. For the ones we couldn't protect, yet. He placed his hand on it and whispered, "We're not late anymore." Young warriors Ilias, on a desert world called Helix 3, a group of young alien cadets watched the broadcast replay of Leo's fight. One of them, small, four-armed, always bullied, stood up suddenly. "I want to fight like the human." The others laughed. But he didn't back down. He pointed at the screen. He didn't win because he was strong. He won because he never gave up. His instructor, an old battle-scarred alien, leaned forward and said quietly, "Then train like him." Hope had spread. Not just fear. Earth Command, secret durai ifafying. Leo sat across from 5 of Earth's top strategists. Screens glowed around them. Data from dozens of alien empires flowed across holograms. They asked the question finally, "What do you think they'll do now?" Leo looked up. Some will want war, some will want to ally. But all of them will be watching. Another general asked, "Should we prepare for invasion?" Leo shook his head. "No," he said, "let them prepare for us." The room fell silent. Because in that moment, Earth stopped being the newcomer. It became the wild card. Final NESSAG. Unknown JLXO. Somewhere, far beyond the mapped stars, a hidden species received the message Earth had broadcasted during the arena fight. They had watched in silence. For centuries. Now, they stirred. One of them, tall and ghostly, looked at the screen showing Leo's face. And it said, "The humans are almost ready." Back to Leo, closing scene. Leo walked alone along a quiet cliff. No cheering crowds, no cameras, just him and the wind. He stopped, looked up at the night sky, full of stars. Somewhere out there, enemies were sharpening weapons. Allies were whispering. Worlds were deciding what Earth meant now. He smiled. Not because he was proud, but because he was ready. His voice, soft and strong, echoed into the dark. "You made me a weapon, but I chose to become a warning. And now, I am the storm you never saw coming."